Greetings from the Minnesota Catholic Conference. I'm Ryan Hamilton, Government Relations Associate for the Minnesota Catholic Conference. And today's stop on our Faithful Citizenship Tour brings us to Long Prairie, Minnesota, where I've caught up with Mr. John Peters. John Peters is campaigning to serve in the Minnesota Legislature, and he wants to represent Senate District 5 as the next state senator from this area. So let's start by getting to know our candidate.
Well,
John, what motivated you to pursue this avenue of service? Why are you running for the state legislature?
well, I take a look at it. I ran 2 years ago. At that time, it was because of health care. I believe that the health care needs to be at least kept at this level and improved over the next few years, because we have a senior population in this part of our county up there. There's other parts that has not. But I just imagine that if I had a heart attack and I had to go 50 miles to get service on there, what would happen then is I may not make it that far.
Yeah.
You know, no matter how good the paramedics are.
Sure.
Sometimes you just need the emergency doctor to do things. So that's one of the key things that I'm doing here. I also feel that we have left a lot of money on the table that could be helping us for roads and infrastructure in here this last time. And we need to get together to a group that does not just say no to everything, and that we actually try to improve people. My whole goal in here is people, people, people on there. So I'm just gonna give you a quick little story here. I grew up in Shelby, Iowa, a town of 533. My graduating class was 36, which is the largest in the history of the school. Okay, so a little bit different than some people.
Yeah.
But my dad and mom ran the town grocery store.
Okay.
At the beginning of the farm season, they would let the farmers charge all of their food until harvest. When they sold their crops, they could pay. He'd give each person a large candy bar for each kid in the family. And Verna probably knows back there, she's sitting back there, a full-size candy bar was this big, not this big like it is now. But, so do that. Not only that, he gave the Christmas trees, the candy, the apples to all three of the churches that we had in town in there. So the whole idea is you work for people. Profit is good. We always made a profit. We lived okay. We weren't rich, but we need to make sure that the people that we serve are number one on anything we do.
Great. Yeah, thanks for that. So we understand that door knocking is a big part of campaigning for this type of elected office. What are you hearing from voters at the doors, and how does that align with the stories you just told? And how does that align with what you plan to accomplish at the legislature?
Well, it's nobody's the same. Okay, we need to understand that. A lot of people are looking at religious and reproductive freedom, freedom to do the church that they want to do and not make the church do something they don't want them to do. A lot of people believe that we need to step back and let people do what they want and not be told by somebody else what they can do. Of course, the economy is an issue on here, and they're worried about that. But most of the people that I'm actually seeing feel the economy is bad, they're worried about it, but they seem to be doing okay. They said, if I ask the question directly, are you doing okay? Mm-hmm. Do you need any help? They generally say, yes, I am doing okay. Now, when some of the other places I go, like the shelters where I don't door knock or anything like that, it's a whole different story, where those people need help. Just a little bit. It's not just my door knocking that I'm seeing this. I am the chair of the board of Hands of Hope Resource Center.
Okay.
The Hands of Hope Resource Center works to help people suffering from domestic violence for the counties of Todd and Wadena County. We give emotional support to the people that are suffering that. We check to see if there's any abuse going on there. We'll give legal support. We give counseling. We may even give security cameras, and we may also give rooms to work rooms to be safe in.
Sure.
Okay, so we'll go to the point where we'll advocate for them in court on there. The second thing, when it comes to the people that what I am seeing right now, one of the questions I ask is, how's your internet? Okay, if you don't know anything about the internet in rural areas, there's a lot of places where there isn't any.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm also on the committee to bring broadband to every house, the availability of affordable broadband to every house in Todd County. And that was some money that was left on the table last time, and a lot of people, they were complaining because their kids had to go into town to sit in the parking lot of Coburn's down here, or sit in the park of McDonald's, or sit in the parking lot of the high school to do their homework. That just stinks. And I'm going to say this, that I hate to be negative, but we're going to have some more emergencies in the future. So we need to make sure that people can do this and work on that. And the third thing I probably see a lot of is the concern about education, both having enough support for their students in the education, the counseling to get the jobs that they want, and then also making sure that they have the mental health support they have, because people have gone through a lot of pressure this last 3 years now.
Thank you. So unlike many advocacy groups, the Catholic Church's voice does not fit neatly into political distinctions. We do not speak as Republicans. We do not speak as Democrats. We are not a single issue advocacy group. We do speak on a broad variety of topics considered by our lawmakers in St. Paul. If elected, you will be entering into a highly partisan environment. How do you plan to overcome partisanship in the policymaking process?
Well, first of all, I'm a negotiator, okay? Unusual, when I went to college, I had a combination football, drama, and academic scholarship. Try to explain the attitudes of a drama student to a football player. Try to explain a football player to a drama student,
Sure.
and bring those two groups together so they understand each other. That's where it kind of starts.
Yeah.
Now, for this campaign, even in the last campaign, Paul and Gazelka and I were friendly. Okay, John Poston, when he was the legislature here, said, John, you're a guy I could work with.
Yeah.
Those are both Republicans. I made an agreement with both candidates that were running in the primary as the Republicans, that we would make everything about issues, nothing personal.
Sure.
Okay, nothing personal at all. We've agreed to that, both sides. We're friendly with each other. We like to talk to each other. The guy that's running as a Republican here, as the state legislature, the House, he and I have discussions almost every week, at least one a week. We probably disagree on a lot of issues, and we agree on a few.
Sure.
Okay, but we're friendly about it, and that's what you have to be. I can't get into somebody's face.
Sure.
Okay, I probably could if I was when I was a football coach, but that was a little bit different story. But we just like to work our way through this type of stuff, and we've got to work step by step by step by step. Only talk about what's true and facts. I'm basically a scientist, a mathematician, so I live by facts. I believe, if I say something and it's wrong, I will tell people I made a mistake. Sure. Okay? And I think with that, if knowingly working my way through this, and then coming to a solution that we can both kind of agree on. We'll never come to a solution where we agree on everything. But we have to be able to work together, and we have to be friendly about it, and we have to talk to each other. Yeah. I'll make time, if I get elected to the Senate, to know every senator that's there.
Great, thank you. So thanks for that insight about why and how you would like to serve. Let's get into some Q&A about specific issues that are on the minds of Minnesota Catholics, starting with the family. So according to Catholic social doctrine, the family is the foundational building block of society, and this view runs contrary to modern society, which prioritizes the individual. Child rearing has never been easy or cheap, and it has only become more arduous as the cost of living, things like transportation, consumer goods, healthcare, housing, they've all skyrocketed. And there seems to be a growing perception that marriage and parenthood are lifestyle choices rather than fundamental vocations. And these perceptions are substantiated by steady declines in marriage rates and family formation amongst the middle and working classes. Would you agree that despite its vital role, the family's well-being has been taken for granted or even neglected by our modern society?
Yes.
What are some strategies that we can employ to elevate the status of family in our politics, media, and culture? So
Okay.
how can society as a whole better support parents in their roles and responsibilities?
Let's just start with the simple fact that first, I believe in freedom of religion. Okay, if one person believes that they have a family this way, and another religion feels that they have to have a family this way, it's all based on what your religion and your personal moral values are. Now, a family is a family.
Sure.
Okay, it doesn't really matter if it's two guys, two women, man and woman. Okay. So a family, because it has to be treated. But one of our biggest problems here is daycare. It does not make sense to have to pay more to keep your child at daycare than you can earn in one job. And then you have to, then let's say you have two jobs. Okay, that means that at least part of the day your kids are going to be alone, or you're going to have family. Here, with my family, my closest relative was about 180 miles away because of the jobs that I had.
Sure.
So I didn't have a family support system here, but we had a strong nuclear family with there. We made sure that we had at least one meal together every day. I made sure that the kids got to whatever their stuff was that they had to do. And I made sure that all of this other things, those are all personal things. We need to make sure that they're financially stable.
Yep.
We need to make sure that they're emotionally supported on there. Everybody needs to be emotionally supported. And if it can't come directly from your family, and sometimes family's not the right person to get emotional support from, but what we have to do is to make sure that we have organizations on there. If you're not necessarily a member of a church congregation, you have to have maybe someplace else that you can go to do this. We have to have the organizations. It's a lot about personal responsibility. Do I want to help somebody, or do I just want to sit and watch my TV news? Okay? We've got to have everybody as people to get out to help each other. We have to talk to each other. We've got a couple people in this room that spend most of their lives helping people in here, and I really appreciate it. The Todd County Council on Aging, which I have support meetings here in this room that we're sitting right now on there to help them get going. That brings our senior citizens together. And being a senior citizen myself, I consider that very important. We have the Senior Citizen Center, it works great. We have this room, it works great. We just get together with there. Now, we also need to improve the way that we can get the kids together. We have to have early childhood education and the training all the way through, so when the kids leave school, that they can do stuff and think properly.
Thanks. So to get a little bit more specific, what role does the legislature play in creating the economic conditions for families, particularly those with little children, minor children?
Well, we have to subsidize more child care. Also, my wife's a nurse. We also have to have more medical care. Those have to be worked at. And so the legislature, by fully funding the public schools, and giving the opportunities for non-public schools to meet the rights and obligations of education, by also so like I said, subsidizing early child care, creating early childhood learning centers, making sure that people are well paid enough that they don't have to work two jobs to be away from their family. And then it's a lot about education. Education of the fathers. Yeah. We have a problem with fathers. We all know that. Yeah. Starting as a young, we have to provide the role models to the young men, and that can be done through any of the public funded organizations that we have, and to help them
Great, thank you. So in conjunction with advocating for policies that promote family formation, our bishops are actively opposed to the legalization, normalization, and commercialization of vice activities that have been proven to undermine the family unit. Would you support or oppose legalizing online sports gambling in Minnesota? And share your reasoning.
I'll tell you the problem with this. Legal or illegal, it's happening.
Sure.
It always will happen. And we're probably talking about internet gambling.
Exactly.
On there, and not necessarily the sporting house on there.
Yeah. Exactly.
Would I support it? Support legalizing? Probably not a strong support. How I would vote, I'd have to look at each individual bill.
Sure.
On there. I can't come up with a blanket answer on that. I do buy a lottery ticket when it hits $300 million, by the way. I bought one for this week. My idea is $2 is worth a half an hour daydream.
Sure.
So, but, I don't do slot machines. I don't like casinos on there, but those are all my personal choices.
Yeah.
And I know we have a major problem here
Yeah.
because we actually have a Gamblers Anonymous group running here in town.
Great.
On there. And that's the type of thing that we have to do. So, no, I probably would not strongly support it, but I'd have to look at the bill just to see what it's in.
So along similar lines, would you support or oppose legalization and commercialization of recreational marijuana in Minnesota?
Yes, because I've been following the research.
Okay.
And the research from Dr. Stanley Groover of Harvard Medical School says it does much less harm than alcohol.
Okay.
That as far as recreational, on there, I cannot use CBD or HCT at all because of a blood condition I have. It ruins up my medications.
Okay.
So for me, it's a non-issue on that. But what I have seen is that in Colorado and Washington, they actually have less crime and more income to the state than they had before they legalized it. Now, what happens with marijuana? Okay, roughly, it does less damage to the body, and then I'm saying it does no damage, but it does less damage to the body than alcohol. And you know how big a problem alcohol is on there. The second thing is, if you have to buy your pot from an illegal source, there's a good chance it's going to be laced with fentanyl.
Yeah.
Okay? Because when you start getting to yourself to the underbelly of the crime syndicate, you are putting yourself in personal danger.
Yeah.
Look how prohibition worked for alcohol. It essentially created the mafia. Okay? And it didn't stop anybody from drinking. Anybody that wanted to drink did. And so that's kind of what's happening with marijuana.
Sure.
It's not a gateway drug unless it's laced with something, or you have to go to the places where it leads to problems or unsavory characters. So what we need to do is make it safe. Again, any bill that I have would have the same restrictions of nobody under a certain age can buy it, and penalties for that. But I think it does less harm to legalize marijuana than it does to make it illegal.
Sure. Thanks. Supporting motherhood and women's health. Catholics hold that life is sacred from conception until natural death, and that people at every stage of life, even those in the womb, should be respected, protected, and loved. Given that the overturning of Roe v. Wade is not the end for us, it's just the beginning. Now more than ever, we need to create a policy environment where babies are respected in law and where women are not led to believe that abortion is their only option. How do you think we can best support mothers before, during, and after childbirth?
Okay, number one, I believe that we need to reduce the need and want for abortion. I'm going to go just a little bit different than what the Catholic Church says. We need to reduce the need and want for abortion. Studies, 3 international studies and 1 national study have shown that the places that have made abortions illegal have more abortions reported. Okay?
Okay.
Let that soak in just for a second. And, you know, when I say reported, that means some of the illegal ones were not supported
Sure.
on there. Let's look at a couple examples. The Netherlands. The Netherlands makes contraception free, abortions free, healthcare free. They have half the rate of abortions than the USA. Okay, half the rate. They also have a lower age of consent, and their kids start sex later. Why? Okay, they have less teenage pregnancy. They have less out of wedlock marriages, and it's all free. We need to first reduce the number of abortions before we make it illegal. We need to make sure that the parent is supportive emotionally. We're talking about family values earlier.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that the parent is avoided. We need to know that they have the facts. They need to be educated on the fact that when they have sex, they could have a baby.
Sure.
Okay, they need to know that. We need to know that the child, when it's born, is going to be taken care of. We need to know that as it goes through life, it's going to be educated. So those are the things that we really need to do before we make abortion illegal.
Sure.
So that is the key thing on there. So I would not vote to make abortion illegal. So I know I'm against the Catholic doctrine right there, but I do believe that is the best way to reduce the number of abortions.
Great, thank you. So now to the other spectrum of life, we live in an age where highly advanced medical knowledge has enabled us to significantly extend life. At the same time, such progress has enabled a throwaway culture such that the legalization of assisted physician suicide, it devalues people who most deserve our compassion, those with disabilities, the elderly, low-income individuals. For Catholics, physician-assisted suicide is contrary to the dignity of the human person, because legalization of that type of suicide unnaturally hastens death when it's thought that the person's life no longer has meaning or purpose. Would you consider supporting our efforts to prioritize compassionate alternatives to physician-assisted suicide, such as hospice, palliative care, and enact policies that promote holistic and dignified end-of-life care?
Well, first of all, I believe in the dignity of life and the dignity of death. I do know that I've had pancreatitis. If I thought that was a fatal condition, the pain was so bad, I had a choice. The pain was so bad that I was drugged, so I was unconscious, or I was basically living in pain. If I knew that was fatal, I would like to have the dignity of life, not to be kept alive. Okay? So yes, in that part, I would think. Now, whether we say, it has to be my choice.
Sure.
It has to be my choice. If I were in a coma and they said I was brain dead, I'd like to have them take me off life support. I don't want to be lying there in a
Sure.
bed wasting away. So those are the two conditions I see as doing there. You know, if I were in a wheelchair, no, I wouldn't support that because I could still be useful.
Sure.
I'd like to think that I have something to give even if I'm not physically able to do anything.
Sure.
I wouldn't be in favor of necessarily doing that. I wouldn't be in favor of that if for several different reasons.
Sure.
But I would be in favor of that if the pain was so bad that you know there's not going to be no quality of life, and I've agreed to it beforehand. And if I didn't agree to it, no, nobody does anything. But if I agreed to it, I know my wife would not be willing to sign that papers. I have to do it myself beforehand. But that's where I stand on that. I believe in both dignity in life and dignity in dignity in death. And as long as I feel that I have something, and something to give may not necessarily be what I can do now, but just to have somebody that I can talk to, or they can talk to me, even if I can't talk, if they can talk to me and get something off their chest, that's fine.
Right.
I don't think I would believe in it in there, but in certain cases, I do believe it's necessary.
Thanks. And final question. Many children in low-income families are trapped in underperforming schools, as families are not able to choose a school that meets their needs. How do you feel about the principle that all parents should be given a choice to send their children to whatever school meets their family's needs, and that education resources should follow the students rather than systems?
I don't believe in that, okay? I believe that we need to improve the public schools. I believe that parents should have the choice to send their kids where they want, okay? But I don't necessarily believe that the voucher system would work.
Okay.
I think it has some unintended consequences, where in some cases like here, a voucher system may kill the public school. And what that also means is we'd have to probably, the one that can't want a public school would have to go another 25, 30 miles to get to one, to get the type of stuff. We would probably have to start cutting down activities like arts, music, sports, when they do that on there. And I believe that if you want to send a kid to a religious institution should take care of that themselves, not necessarily the state on there. Homeschooling, if you can prove that you do a homeschooling, that's fine, but a lot of people can't have two parents at home to do that. So no, I believe if we fully funded and equalized the school systems around the state would be a better solution for the underprivileged children.
Great, thank you. John Peters, folks, and John is running for the state Senate seat in District 5. John, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you for your candor and allowing the voters to learn more about you and what you'll bring to St. Paul next year.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Great.